Good morning, everyone. My name is Billy Goodall.
I'm Jared Podolsky.
I'm Hector Cornelius.
And Todd.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about volcanoes. So to give an outline of basically what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the three different types of volcanoes, their formation, their eruption, and their effects on the society. Then we're going to talk a little bit about warning systems, and then we're going to talk about Japan's Mount GEO. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about composite volcanoes. Another way to call a composite volcano is a stratovolcano. The majority of these are formed in the Pacific. Here's the image right here. All these red warning systems is volcanoes that have occurred. There's roughly 452 these stratovolcanoes in the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is, you kind of tell it's a ring, and these are all formed by subduction, which is two plates slipping under each other. The basic look of these volcanoes, they're steep-sided and they're like a symmetrical cone. Right here is a famous one called Mount St. Helens. And I'm guessing if Dr. Hutsky asked us to draw one, majority of you would draw it like this. It's kind of the cartoon volcano that you would see. And roughly, these can reach up to 8,000 feet in height. So a little bit how these are formed. Basically how these volcanoes are formed is they evolve over thousands of years. After one erupts, the ash and the magma will just keep stacking upon each other, and they'll just keep building up, and then each eruption, like I said, adds a layer until roughly around thousands of feet tall. And the layers, they switch, so it'll go ash, lava, ash, and there's cinders in between each layer too. How these volcanoes erupt, it's basically a conduit system, which means that magma from underneath the ground comes up through the middle, and basically this magma is going to keep building up higher and higher. This magma is rich with gas, and then eventually, kind of like a balloon, once the pressure reaches too high, it's eventually the high pressure and the gas is going to cause an explosion. Right here, pretty cool gif of just basically showing how they're going to erupt. Some of the effects of these composite volcanoes is climate change. They can cause severe winters and can even eliminate summer. I know it happened roughly like 40 or 50 years ago. You would think this year there's been many volcanoes because we were going to have a summer, but luckily it's starting to turn around. Another one would be the deadly eruptions. There's a silicon, it's a type of material that's very sticky, and it can plug up these holes in the volcano, and it eventually, this would cause the pressure and the gas buildup, which would cause the explosion. The lava flow coming from the volcano, I know I read that it's not really that fast, so people can get out of the way, but as far as like buildings and structures, it would definitely cause damage to that. And then the ash coming from the volcano, right here's a picture of the ash. I know if you inhale it, when people breathe it in, it's extremely deadly, and it has affected planes with people, and also people driving cars.
All right, so I'm going to discuss a little bit on shield volcanoes and like some of the facts. So shield volcanoes are like the largest type of volcanoes, not like the tallest, but like the largest in width and everything. They're around 20 times larger than the height, like the width is of the height of the volcano. And they have many locations all over the world, located in Hawaii, like the Mauna Loa, and a couple in the Galapagos Islands, and others across the world. So formation of shield volcanoes, most of the volcanoes are formed just like how like composite ones were, like over time, just like the lava flows will build up and take shape of the volcano. Some of the shield volcanoes are defined as cryoclastic shields, which means basically over past eruptions, the volcano and the magma over everything will just build up and make the volcano just like how it looks here. So the eruption style. So the eruption style of the shield volcanoes is very like fountainy. Like it's not like a huge explosion like how the composite ones were. It's less explosive, just more just free flowing. They're usually not highly explosive. The only times I read that when they were if they have water getting into the vent of the volcano itself. And also, kind of like hitting back on the last slide, the lava is like the magma and everything like flows more like faster than most, like so like that's why it can get a much bigger width than many other volcanoes. And then the effect on the environment, so the slow eruptions and everything to do with the shield volcanoes makes it simpler to predict when the lava flows are going to happen and where they're going to go, and to protect everyone around it. And also, due to the slow flow and the non-explosive eruptions, it doesn't really release any harmful gases or debris into the environment, so there's not really a big worry on the environment there.
Alright, I'm going to talk to you about dome volcanoes, or lava domes, whichever you prefer to use. So essentially, what is I'm going to use lava dome in this case. So what is a lava dome essentially? So a lava dome is essentially a steep-sided mass where blocky material erupts through a vent. But that's for another slide. I'll show you a video on a lava dome erupting. Now, they can mostly be found pretty much anywhere that has volcanic activity, but most commonly they're kind of found in craters of composite volcanoes. But they also have been known to form by themselves. Now, an example of a lava dome is one in Mount St. Helens. So essentially, here's a diagram. It has the steep sides, has the vent, and vent. Now, the formation is pretty much, it's different. No formation of a lava dome is the same from the other, because you have two methods essentially, where one you have eruptions and the material ends up stacking on each other and it just kind of forms this huge mass, or it kind of just inflates on the inside. You ever see that movie Willy Wonka? You know, that blueberry girl? You know. Now, they also form at different rates. You could have some that form in days, weeks, or even just hours. So, now here's a graphic by the United States Geological Survey from 1980 to 1988. So this is the stacking method essentially. So you have the red layer from August to December of 1980. It's the oldest, but with each subsequent eruption, you can see that it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger essentially. So their eruption style is essentially, even though they were built on non-explosive eruptions, they can yield pyroclastic flows, which are essentially a mixture of gas and molten material that can reach pretty much temperatures over 800 Celsius, which is extremely hot. And I actually have a video of a lava dome in Holloway volcano in Indonesia. I don't know why it starts at 10 seconds there. So as you can see, with its eruption, it's just kind of blocky material. It's not as explosive. There's not that much gas coming out. Just one little eruption there. Now, in terms of effects, it's pretty much just like any other volcano that my peers just mentioned. You get ash, you know, it affects humans. But I'm going to kind of talk about instances of what lava domes did, essentially. One of the most famous being Mount Helene. If there's any French majors or minors in here, I apologize. In Saint Pierre in Martinique. It's a French territory in the Caribbean. And on May 8, 1902, the entire island was pretty much wiped out. Almost the entire population was gone except for 2 people, and that was a French shoemaker, and the other guy was a guy who ended up going to, they called it the dungeon back then, but it was just jail, essentially.
Volcanoes are scary unless you're immune to lava, ash, and falling rock. In which case, you're probably not scared by volcanoes. For the rest of us, though.
Okay, little side video there. He used a cutlass on his friend. He was only there for like a week, but he ended up surviving, and he ended up actually going to the circus afterwards. And his prison sentence got commuted as well. Another instance is Mount Dake in Japan in 1972, where a lava dome erupted, and that also ended up triggering an avalanche, which also ended up triggering a tsunami. So that was pretty violent. And the last one was the capital city in Montserrat called Plymouth. It's a British territory. In 1995, there was a violent lava dome eruption that essentially caused the entire southern portion of the island to evacuate. There were about 4,000 deaths, and the actual capital city itself is abandoned, but it is the de jure, which is a term for legally it's still the political city, but they moved the capital and the government to a different city.
Okay, so now that we talked about the volcanoes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the warning systems for humans. So USGS has alert system levels, and there's two types. The first is ranked terms for the people who are on the ground about volcanic activity. And the second is colors, and that's for people in the air aviation sectors. So the first, we're just going to talk about alert levels, which are the ranked terms. So it basically just is most common how people would say, like normal is nothing's happening at volcano. Then you get a little bit of an advisory, which is like, oh, there's a little bit of a warning, you should be alert of this issue. Watch is like, there's stuff coming out of the volcano, you should be starting to worry a little more, maybe you should go somewhere safe, that area. Warning is basically you should be gone from the area just so that you have no causes there. So aviation is a little different because it kind of touches on ash instead of the lava flow. Green is just normal, which just seems to coincide with each other. Yellow is a little bit of ash is coming out, not a lot. Planes can still fly, everything along those lines. Orange is they probably shouldn't be flying because there's more coming out, but a volcanic eruption can happen soon. And then red is no planes allowed, so basically they're just alert that there is volcanic activity, large amounts. So when the alert level goes off for the terms, there is a volcanic activity notice, which is also called VAN, and that actually touches and gives a warning to the humans on the ground. When the color changes, that's a volcanic observatory notification for aviation. So that would mean like all planes and anyone in aviation is warned about this issue. Okay, so I'm just going to touch a little bit more about the notification types and what happens. I know there's multiple different ways. You can get emails, you can get notifications on your phone, kind of just like you would for a tornado warning, something along those lines. But I'm just going to touch on the two that I mentioned before. So for the VAN, that one announces changes in significant activity. So basically when it drops a level, so if it comes to normal, to advisory, to watch, anything along those lines, you would get a notification about it. Anybody on the ground would get a notification about it. And it's basically, it can include ash, it can include lava flow, it can include anything along those lines. Now, the VONA, which that's a little different for aviation, it's kind of for people who fly planes, meteorologists, air traffic managers, anyone up in the air, basically, who focuses on that area. They get any notifications when it changes levels of colors. And so that is just ash emission. So they get that notification. And these observatories are actually, they get noticed, these people in the air or on the ground get noticed by scientists. These are based on analysis of data that they've been monitoring these volcanoes over a long period of time, so they get this on networks, satellite sensors, or just direct observation of the volcano. So I'm going to go a little bit more into the interactive maps, which is, so sometimes the colors and the ranked terms can link up, but sometimes they can't because, you know, one time you'll get an ash flow and then one time you'll get a lava flow. So it's kind of a little different. So this one's kind of just, it combines the two together. So you can look at this at all times. And so it's basically kind of a mix of them. So it goes from green to red, but then it also gives like normal advisory watch warning, which is just kind of just to give everybody a warning. And then there's also, if you can click on the first link, it touches on, this is volcanoes that have occurred in the last couple of years. So basically all the different colors are, so this is like, oh, it's a little bit of a watch, this is a warning, or this is something, and then this gets a little worse. This is the worst. So basically, you can touch on any different type. So like this one over here is a main one, and they've had eruptions. So they just have like a lava flow in the center of their volcano, basically. And it hasn't flowed out, it's just at the top waiting to erupt. So it's basically in a big warning there. And then my second one touches on, it's the ones in the United States area. So these are all the ones currently. So there's not really any warning except this one that I was already talking about earlier, except that there's a little bit of a lava flow in the top. So it's a watch for people, basically. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Japan's Mount Aima. So this is a little bit recent. It actually just erupted on April 19th, 2018, which was a couple days ago, for the first time in 250 years. So it basically spewed lava that was taller than the Eiffel Tower, which is a lot of ash flow. And so then it prompted warnings for planes, people on the ground. It just faced a threat for all of them. So they just needed to have a little bit of a warning. Not catastrophic or anything along those lines, but there is a warning that it could be more active in the future, and this is according to a meteorologist from the Japan Times. So basically the agency detected volcanic activity in February and moved it up to a level 2, which is basically on those terms, ranked terms, it just is an advisory. So they knew that it was coming, they just didn't know how big it would be, basically. And so, in conclusion, I just want to touch on everything that we talked about. We talked about the 3 different types of volcanoes and their formation, their eruption, and their effects on society. Then I went into a little bit about the warning systems and how people can be notified about the issues that occur between these volcanoes. And then just touch on the most recent volcano that happened in Japan.